Greetings viewers, I am Eric the Car Guy and this is the ETCG1 channel. And why do I have two YouTube channels? Well, I'm not really sure about that. Which channel do I watch, Eric? Well, watch them both is the best answer to that. But here on ETCG1 I start things off with, hey, if it's your birthday, happy birthday. Please enjoy this digital confection I found for you. Today I'd like to talk about why we name things, in particular vehicles. I have named almost all of my vehicles and I'm going to go around the shop and share my names with you, but I'm curious if you also name your vehicles and why. I did a little bit of research on this and it seems that we like to name things to gain some measure of control over them. Sometimes machines can be temperamental, so maybe we provide them with a name that might be associated with that. And most common names are like Betsy or Bertha or Old Blue or Old Red, things like that. I found that also interesting. Anyway, I'm going to go around the shop and all the vehicles that I have here and let you know what I've named them and why. And then we'll circle back at the end and, well, we'll open up this discussion to you. Let's get started. This topic gets started here with my new to me 2005 Honda Element. And I recently did a bunch of work to it, replaced the engine in fact. And I still have a little bit more work that I want to do to it, but I finally come up with a name. And I call it Watson. Why do I call it Watson? Well, it's a Honda Element. Elementary, my dear Watson. Plus, it kind of looks like a Watson. To me, this looks like, if you called this Watson, you'd be like, yeah, that fits. But this is kind of where the genesis of this conversation happened. This has come to be known as the Fairmont Project. Originally, it had the name Oliver, and I named it that after the car that Richard Hammond drove in the Botswana special on the Top Gear episode that was out. And I named it that because it had a similar color and Hammond had sort of an affection for the car. I'm not really sure what it was, but it's sort of the same feeling I had when I met this car for the first time. We were just meant to be together. We were buddies from the go. Although I will admit, Fairmont Project isn't necessarily the most romantic or cool or clever name. It certainly fits what it is because it is a project vehicle. And as many of us know, project vehicles are never truly done. So perhaps Fairmont Project will stick, but Oliver certainly hasn't. And I'm a little sad about that, but I don't really have anything else for it at this time. Dad's truck. For me, this will always be Dad's truck. Why? Because my dad gave it to me and he had this truck for a very long time before he did. The name came right out of the box. It came with the truck. It sort of named itself. But it certainly fits, at least in my mind. I also like the fact that this truck isn't in your face. It's not overstated or anything like that. It's got a little bit of 90s or 80s bling to it. And it kind of fits, you know, as far as my dad, in a way. So every time I get in this truck, every time I drive it, I always think of my dad. And even though I have the truck now, it will always be Dad's truck. This is probably one of my favorite cars ever that I've ever bought and owned, and that is my 2000 Integra Type R. And I call it Blackbeard. Follow me now. Okay, so what's a pirate's favorite car? It's a Type R! I know. But I am a dad, so I'm allowed to do dad jokes. That said, I call it Blackbeard not only because it's a pirate's favorite car, but it's kind of a savage to drive, to be honest with you. And that's one of the things I love so much about it. If you're driving like above 5,000 RPM, you're doing it right in this car is how I feel about it. And it just makes a glorious noise with the Tanabe exhaust when I do that. Anyway, Blackbeard comes about because Blackbeard, well, if you know anything about him, he was kind of half mad from syphilis towards the end there, but he used to tie cannon fuse to his beard and light it on fire when he would board ships and scare the crap out of people. And I think that really fits for a car like this. So I introduce to you Blackbeard. And this little gem here is my 2000 Acura Integra GSR. I waited 13 years for this car. It came from the dealership where I worked. It had one owner, and I bought it from that owner when she was done with it. And I'm so happy to have it now. It is a very nice example of what one of these cars was when it was new from the factory. I hope to one day restore it to its original glory. However, I've never been fond of the silver color. So I plan to change its color to a pearl white. In fact, I want to use the General Motors pearl white that they use on things like Cadillacs and other types of things. I've always thought that color was wonderful. And I think as a nice companion to my black Type R, I'm going to call this car Pearl. This guy here is my 2008 Acura TL, and I call it Blackura. It just, I don't know, the name just makes me smile when I say it, because it's a black Acura. Blackura. And it kind of reminds me of a vampire. I don't know why. Now this silver 2000 Honda Civic, I basically got for the engine and transmission, which I transplanted into my son's 1999 Honda Civic. But this thing came in with an engine that was blown originally. It was only running on 3 cylinders, but yet it ran and drove. Therefore, I've given it the name John Wick, because it just won't die. For me, the naming things goes beyond vehicles. I also name some of my tools, not all of them, but some of them. For example, this hammer, I call it Thor. Now I realize Thor doesn't call his hammer Thor, and it has a different name, and I don't know what that is. But I call this hammer Thor, and I think you get the point. And I call this tool Candy. Why? Because they're wire strippers, get it? And Candy seemed like a nice name for a wire stripper. She's sour apple. I have one more vehicle that's not here today, and that is my 2012 Honda Odyssey, which is really my wife's Honda Odyssey, let's be real. But we call that Vader. Why? Because it's black. And if you look at it from the back, it kind of reminds me of Vader's helmet a little bit. Anyway, so that one's Vader. We had a 2001 Honda Odyssey before that. I called that Stanley, and the reason for that is because it was a 2001 Odyssey, which was the movie made by Stanley Kubrick. Stanley. So names, in a way, I like them to be clever for my vehicles. I like to have a little bit of fun with it. And I think a lot of it for me comes from the fact, and some of these are vehicles that I've built or am going to build. And in a way, I see that as taking a whole new level of ownership of that vehicle. It's one thing to purchase a vehicle and drive it for a number of years. I think it's quite something else to go through the time and effort to modify it and change it and make it into something completely unique and on its own. And much like you would if you painted a picture, you might give that a name, or built a ship, or I'm not sure. But an effort that is put into something, I think, sort of lends itself to wanting to name it because you have invested into it in some way. Love to get your thoughts down in the comments about this. I'll put links in the description to additional videos and stuff like that if you want to check it out, mostly about the vehicles that you saw here in this video. But do you name your vehicles? Is naming your vehicle stupid? You know, whatever your opinion is, I'd love to hear about it. And I, of course, want to hear your vehicles and what you call them and why. I think that'll be a lot of fun. We'll do that down in the comments. I'm also going to put a link to ericthecarguy.com down in the description if you have automotive questions. I ask you go there. Anyway, thank you so much for watching today. Be safe, have fun, stay dirty. I'll see you next time.